I remember the crowds, so many of them looking for truth, and Jesus spoke. I remember the sick and the hurting, so desperately needing to be healed, and Jesus touched. I remember the ones carrying the guilt and shame of a lifetime, and Jesus forgave. How do I remember this? My name is Simon Peter, and I was there. I remember his words were simple, yet powerful, and there was something about him, an authority, a quiet kind of confidence. Sometimes he seemed the most ordinary of men, but then he'd do something that would amaze all of us. Once, he spoke a word, and a storm was stilled. And another time, he took one small basket of food and fed thousands of people.
Rabbi, there are so many people.
Yes, like sheep without a shepherd.
Rabbi, it's getting late. Send the crowds out into the nearby towns so that they may get food.
They do not need to go away. You give them something to eat.
Master, we have no food.
Jesus, you can have what I've got.
Master, it's only 5 loaves and 2 fish.
Please, bring it to me. Have the people sit down. Blessed are you, O Lord our God, King of the universe, who brings forth bread from the earth.
Amazing bread.
But with him, we learn to accept the amazing and expect the impossible. For he came to bind up the brokenhearted, proclaim freedom for the captive, and release prisoners. Passover was drawing near, and we were on our way with Jesus to Jerusalem. Already, pilgrims and visitors were pouring in through the gates, mingling with merchants from the villages. Listen, you can hear the sound of joy and excitement as the Master prepares to make his way to the ancient walled city.
As I watched Jesus with the children, my eyes filled with tears, for I saw the miracle he'd worked in my own heart. My name is Mary Magdalene. I had been so weary of this world, so soiled with sin, used by men, and despised by other women. But then I met him, and in his eyes, I found love, forgiveness, and hope. And in his healing, I found within myself the trusting heart of a child and a place to begin again.
What is your name?
Legion! For we are many!
Come out from him!
Do not harm us now! Cast us into this swine!
Come out from him!
Even with the excitement and drama of the miracles he performed, Jesus still had time for the children. How quickly the mood changed from the laughter of children to the whispers of deceit. Hosannas were no longer heard from the crowds, and the religious leaders began plotting the death of Jesus. Cheers had changed to curses, and shouts of praise to accusations. I know he's the King. I've walked by his side, seen the hope that he brings, seen the love in his eyes. I know he's the King. I've heard what he said. I've seen him in suffering, heal the sick and raise the dead. I could never betray. I know he's the King. I know he's the King. I know he's the King. Who is this King with the throne and the crown? Why didn't we sing, lay palm branches down? Who is this King in this royal parade? This is Some of the disciples even began to have doubts and fears about the future. But the one I remember most was our money keeper, Judas. You see, we didn't know that Satan had entered into him and that he would meet with the chief priests and officers who sought to kill Jesus, and how he might betray him to them for just 30 pieces of silver.
I cannot believe this is happening. This man that they call Jesus is causing quite a stir wherever he goes. Some say he is even sent from God.
And that's ridiculous. We are God's chosen. And if God was going to send a messenger, it would have been one of us.
But the people, they're quite taken by him. They talk of miracles he's supposed to have done.
Miracles?
That's what I've heard. Healings, mostly.
That's nonsense. He is just a man. He doesn't have the power to heal.
But the people, they're calling him their king.
A king? This Jesus? What kind of king is he?
That, my brothers, we have yet to discover. But the people have embraced him. We just can't let this go on much longer.
You're exactly right. Something must be done about this Jesus of Nazareth. You know, our coexistence with these Roman heathens is fragile enough without some rabble-rouser stirring the people up. We must deal with this man in the most finite manner. It's better that one man die for the people than an entire nation to perish.
Perhaps we could run him out of the city before the Passover even gets underway.
And how do you propose to do that? How do you take a man with hundreds, maybe thousands of followers and just run him out of the city?
You're right. It's not just that simple. Efforts to discredit him have all failed. And his popularity is growing daily, at our expense, I might add.
No, you don't run a man like Jesus away. He would only return, and our problems will return with him. Gentlemen, our solution must be permanent. We need a reason, plausible reason to have him arrested. And we've got to be creative about this. More important than that, we need to find the proper time and place for this arrest. Somewhere away from the eyes and ears of his adoring public. And to that end, I offer you the services of this man. Gentlemen, I'd like you to meet Judas Iscariot. Now, he has agreed for 30 pieces of silver to turn his master Jesus over to us tomorrow evening in an out-of-the-way place. All we need then are some convincing witnesses, a little cooperation from our friend Pontius Pilate. And if all goes well, we can have Jesus of Nazareth tried, convicted, and executed before Passover begins.
Very well. Let it be done.
Well then, gentlemen, good night. Sleep well. Tomorrow promises to be a very busy day. Oh, Malchus, pay the man.
Beneath the surface, a storm was building. But the Master's love continued to unfold, embracing us with a calm assurance, even though he knew, as the Son of God, all that was about to happen. We gathered in an upper room to partake of the feast of the Passover. And while we were eating, the Lord got up from the table and wrapped a towel around his waist and came to me with a basin of water and began to wash my feet. I jumped up and said, "Lord, you're going to wash my feet?" And Jesus told me that I didn't understand what he was doing. And he was right. I didn't understand. He was the Messiah. He was the King. Why should he wash my feet? I told him that he would never wash my feet. But then he said, "Peter, unless I wash you, you have no part with me." So I knelt before him and I said, "Lord, don't just wash my feet, but wash my hands and my head as well." You know, I wasn't sure what he was trying to teach me that day. But I always wanted him to know that I would always follow him. At the meal, Jesus took the bread and the wine and began to share the depth of his love for us.
Remember what I taught you. Remember what you heard. Remember how I loved you. How I cherish God's own word. Soon I will leave you. With my Father I will be. Never doubt that I am with you. Never fear. Remember me. Remember quiet moments. Remember days of joy. Remember times of victory that no power can destroy. Remember Father's mercy as the blind were made to see. When you think of those that love you, dear your heart, remember me. Let not your heart be troubled. Don't let it be afraid. For I'm going to my Father to prepare for you a way. Just remember I'm beside you through each moment, through each day. So don't let your heart be troubled. Through my Spirit you will see. When you think of those that love you, dear your heart, remember me. So don't let your heart be troubled. Through my Spirit you will see. When you think of those that love you, hear your heart, remember me. Remember me.
At that moment, I didn't realize that the hands that washed my feet were the hands that would soon be nailed to a rugged cross. After the Passover meal, we all sang a hymn together. All of us except Judas, that is. He made his exit early to alert the chief priest and Pharisees. And Jesus led several of us out across the Kidron Valley to a small garden called Gethsemane. "Sit here and pray," he said to us. We could see he was deeply distressed and troubled, but we had no idea the horror that was about to come. And one by one, we all fell asleep as Jesus agonized in prayer to the point of death.
O Gethsemane, beneath the stars, you've embraced a lamb whose destiny was broken long before the world began. In Gethsemane were his friends asleep as he knelt alone.
felt a hand on my shoulder and awoke from sleep. I looked up into my master's eyes, and there was so much love and yet so much pain, as if the weight of the whole world was on his shoulders. He spoke to me, "Peter, are you asleep? Have you not the strength to watch with me for just 1 hour? Watch and pray so that you will not fall into temptation. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak."
Can you tell me on that night, was there wind and rain? And was the Father's heart revealed in silence and in pain? Oh, Gethsemane, has there ever been a greater love outpoured than when the blessed Savior prayed, "Father, not my will, but yours. Father, not my will, but yours."
And then the still solitude of the garden was shattered by the hateful noise of the approaching crowd.
What accusation do you bring against this man?
Pontius Pilate, Your Excellency, we are most grateful for your audience. We have found this man guilty of misleading our nation, forbidding us to pay taxes to Caesar, and he claims to be Christ, a king. This man is nothing more than a common criminal. And that is why we're handing him over to you, sir.
You take him and judge him according to your laws.
But may I respectfully remind His Excellency that we're not allowed to put any man to death.
Fine. I'll question him myself. So who are you anyway? Are you King of the Jews?
Are you saying this of your own initiative? Or did someone else speak to you about me?
What? Do you think I'm a Jew? It was your people and your chief priests who brought you here to me. Anyway, just what is it that you're supposed to have done?
My kingdom is not of this world. If it were, my servants would be fighting to prevent my arrest.
Oh, so you are a king.
You are correct in saying that I am a king. In fact, it was for this reason that I was born, and for this reason that I came to earth, to testify to truth. All on the side of truth. Listen to me.
Truth. What is truth? Another lunatic Jewish philosopher. Where do you find these people anyway? Listen, you have brought this man to me as one who incites rebellion among the people. But having examined him before you, I can find no fault regarding the charges brought against him. Therefore, I'll just chastise him and let him go.
Away with this man! Release to us Barabbas!
Silence! Silence! Well, what shall I do with the one you call King of the Jews? Silence! Silence! Why? What evil has he done?
If you let this man go, you're no friend of Caesar's.
We have no Away with this man!
Silence!
He is not our king. Crucify him!
Silence! Silence! Do you hear what they're saying? Who are you? Where do you come from? Speak to me. Don't you know who I am? I have the power to free you or to crucify you. Speak to me. Scourge him. I am innocent of this man's blood. It's your responsibility. Now away with him, and let him be crucified.
Walking on the road to Jerusalem, the time had come to sacrifice again. My two small sons, they walked beside me on the road. The reason that they came was to watch the Lamb. Daddy, Daddy, what will we see there? There's so much that we don't understand. So I told them of Moses and Father Abraham. And then I said, dear children, watch the Lamb. For there will be so many in Jerusalem today. We must be sure the Lamb doesn't run away. So I told him of Moses and Father Abraham. And then I said, dear children, watch the Lamb. Now as we enter the city, I knew something must be wrong. There were no joyful worshipers, no joyful worship songs. I stood there with my children in the midst of angry men. Then I heard the crowd cry out, crucify him! We tried to leave the city, but we could not get away. Forced to play in this drama, a part I did not wish to play. This day were men condemned to die. Why were we standing here where soon they would pass by? I looked and then I said, even now they come. The first one begged for mercy, the people gave him none. The second one was violent, he was arrogant and loud. I still can hear his angry voice screaming at the crowd. Then someone said, there's Jesus, and I scarce believed my eyes. A man so badly beaten, he barely looked alive. Blood poured from his body, from the thorns upon his brow, running down the cross, falling to the ground. I watched him as he struggled, I watched him as he fell. The cross came down upon his back, The crowd began to yell. In that moment, I felt such agony. In that moment, I felt such loss. Until a Roman soldier grabbed my arm and screamed, "You! Carry his cross!" At first, I tried to resist him, but then his hand reached for his sword. And so I knelt and took the cross from the Lord. I placed it on my shoulder and started down the street. The blood that he'd been shedding was running down my cheek. They led us to Golgotha. They drove nails deep in his feet and hands. Yet upon the cross he prayed, "Father, forgive them." Oh, never have I seen such love in any other eyes. Into my hands I commit my spirit. He prayed, and then he died. I stood there for what seemed like years. I lost all sense of time, until I felt two tiny hands holding tight to mine. My children stood there weeping. I heard the older say, "Father, please forgive us." The lamb ran away. Daddy, Daddy, what have we seen here? There's so much that we don't understand. So I took them in my arms. We turned and faced the cross. And then I said, "Dear children, watch the Lamb."
then that I realized that he should not have been crucified. He wore the crown that we should have worn. He endured the pain that we should have endured. They pierced his side. Every drop of blood drained from his body. It was at that moment that we all understood and realized his love and forgiveness as we stood at the foot of the cross.
They were watching from a distance, and they could not take their eyes from you. You were bleeding, they were weeping, faithful sisters, they had followed you. They did not understand, they could not see, they were mourning their loss. As the sky turned black, and the earth turned red, at the foot of the cross. Keep me near the cross, may I never stray so far that I cannot see what flowed down for me at the foot of the cross. He was standing near your mother. They were so close, they could hear you sighing all around them. Angry voices pierced the darkness as you were dying, but they would not leave. They lingered there, no matter the cost. They were staying and they were praying at the foot of the cross. Keep me near the cross, may I never stray so far that I cannot see what flowed down for me at the foot of the
After his body had been taken down, he was wrapped in a burial cloth. And our Lord, who came to us, a child in a borrowed manger, was placed in a borrowed tomb. He was born with nothing, and he died with nothing. And yet, he paid the price for the sins of the whole world. Words cannot describe the agony I felt in my heart. I had listened to the power of his words. I had witnessed his healing touch. His love had penetrated my heart, even my very soul. Never once had he failed me. But many times, I failed him. I felt as though I had personally driven the nails and spikes into his own hands and feet. And 3 times in the court of the high priest, I denied I had ever known Jesus. I should have cried out, "No! How can you beat this man who's been so tender and merciful to everyone whose life he touched?" But all they heard were my lies. You see, for 3 years, he'd been there for all of us, to meet our every need. When we were hungry, he fed us. When we were powerless, he offered us power. And when our lives were threatened by the stormy sea, Jesus was there to calm the storm and restore peace to our souls. Every time we needed him, he had been there for us. But in his time of need, we had cowered in the shadows, helpless and afraid. He shed his own blood for my sins, for all of our sins. The years had left scars. The scars had left pain. How could he recognize me? I wasn't the same. I knew I should pay, and I knew the price for justice and law demanded my life, but his tender heart heard my desperate cry, and he saw my past through merciful eyes. That's how mercy saw me. For I was broken and so lost. Mercy looked past all my faults. The justice of God saw what I had done, but mercy saw me through the sun. Not what I was, but what I could be. That's how mercy saw me. Whatever you've done, you can't go too far. That is eyes of mercy can't see where you are. He loves you too much of his flesh and bone of his bone, and his heart cries out for your heart today. See yourself through his eyes, then you will say, mercy looked past all my faults. The justice of God saw what I had done, but mercy saw me through the sun. Not what I was, but what I could be. That's how mercy saw me. Not what I was, but what I could be. That's how mercy saw me. Mercy saw me.
What is it now, Caiaphas? Wasn't it only yesterday that I did your dirty work for you? I wouldn't have hoped to see you again so soon.
Your Excellency, one small detail remains. It seems that while the deceiver Jesus was alive, he claimed that on the third day after his death, he would be raised from the dead. Now, we know that's all nonsense, but we're afraid his followers might try to steal his body just to promote such a fantasy.
So what exactly do you ask of Rome this time, Caiaphas? More killing? Hey, perhaps we could crucify a few disciples too. Would that take care of your little problem sufficiently?
Governor, sir, all we ask for is a guard. Perhaps two, just enough to protect the tomb until the third day is passed. That way...
Yes, then take a guard. Centurion, go and make the tomb as secure as you know how. Put my seal on it and post 2 men for 3 days. I wish to hear no more of this Jesus of Nazareth. My wife was right. I should have had nothing to do with this man.
Not a word was heard at that tomb that day. Just shuffling soldiers' feet as they guarded the grave. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days had passed. Could it be that Jesus had breathed his last? Could it be that the Father had forsaken him, turned his back on his Son, despising our sin? All hell whispered, forget him who's dead. But the Father looked down at his Son and said,
Arise, my love, arise, my love. The grave no longer has a hold on you. No more death sting, no more suffering. Arise,
The earth trembled and the tomb began to shake, and like lightning from heaven, the stone was rolled away, and as dead men the gods stood there in fright as the power of love displayed Where are your shackles? Where is your sting? Has been defeated. The great good battle, the King. Arise, my love. Arise, my love. The grave no longer has a hold on you. No more death sting, no more suffering. Arise, arise, arise.
3 days after his death, there was a knock on my door. And Mary Magdalene was there so excited she could hardly speak. She told us his tomb was empty. And 2 men dressed in white told her Jesus had risen from the dead. And we immediately ran to the tomb, and sure enough, he was not there. As you can imagine, word spread quickly to the chief priest, who even paid the soldiers to tell everyone we had stolen the body of Jesus. But nothing could stop the excitement of those who had trusted in Jesus and believed that he had risen.
He
After his resurrection, Jesus appeared to us and many others. He spoke to us of comfort and encouragement and a home he was going to prepare for us. He said, "You will receive power when the Holy Spirit comes upon you, and you will be witnesses in Jerusalem, in Judea, Samaria, and to the ends of the earth." And then before our very eyes, he was lifted up into heaven, and a cloud hid him from our sight. Suddenly 2 men stood beside us and said, "Ye men of Galilee, why stand ye gazing up into heaven? This same Jesus which is taken up shall come again in the same way you have seen him go today." My friends, the day of his return is soon approaching. And then we shall see the Messiah coming in a cloud with power and great glory. So be encouraged and look to heaven as we crown him King of Kings and Lord of Lords. I stand in the midst of the multitude of those from every tribe and tongue. I am your child, redeemed by your blood, rescued from death by your love. There are no words good enough to thank you. There are no words to express